Tigers and MVP Varus, the first ban coming out on the Tigers side.
So you can confidently ban the Varus. You saw how well Ian played it. You don't feel bad. It's when you have to ban the Amumu. That's when you have to panic a bit for Rox. I feel like Amumu's going to be left up. I don't know if Lightning can strike twice with that pick, and I think it was also a big reasoning for that was the fact that so many junglers were banned away. So if the jungle pool isn't pinched as hard, I don't think you have to worry about the Amumu ban. It certainly I don't think should be a second ban, but if you see more jungle bans from MVP, maybe it has to be your third blue side ban if you're Rox.
Well, I mean, if I was MVP, I might want to try to force that as much as I possibly could.
I think you ban Kindred here and then see what Rox does.
Notice, too, how many bans Ian is actually demanding here from the Rox Tigers side.
MVP, follow my logic. They do ban the Kindred, so that means that the top two junglers are out. Of course, Elise and Rek'Sai, still very powerful, and Graves, who's kind of fallen out of the meta, is still a consideration. We've seen Graves available in multiple games, and people might be wondering why we're not talking about Graves as relevant in this jungle fighting meta, specifically fighting around Dragon. Graves' ramp-up time makes him fairly irrelevant. Now, you can probably say the same thing about Amumu, but they made that work. You can make Graves work, it's just he's not as oppressive as he was before a couple of nerfs have come out, so we just haven't seen much Graves in the jungle, and when we have, it hasn't done a lot of winning.
Yeah. So first pick over to the Rox Tigers this time around. It was 3 jungle bans from MVP.
They're basically saying, hey, you want to do Rek'Sai versus Amumu again?
Well, I mean, what do you take? The Ashe actually might be kind of tempting for Rox Tigers, but they don't have a Varus to pair with it. Maybe the Lucian here?
Maokai or Ekko.
Yeah,
also
that's true.
Very powerful and both available.
Yeah.
Trundle.
The Trundle, though. Okay, going back to the Trundle. First pick from game 1.
Now, it is a flex pick. MVP going to hover that Amumu at minimum. I don't know if you lock it in. It's clearly not going to be taken away. You can just take the Rek'Sai if you want, but I think you leave the jungle pickup. I think you're happy if they take the Rek'Sai, if you feel like you have enough tools left to make an Amumu-esque comp work. But hard to say what gears are turning in the booth and the coaching, from the coach especially, from MVP. Ekko is that top laner with pressure compared to Maokai, who's still very strong but doesn't quite have that lane pressure with the strong wave clear. So I expect the Ekko lock-in to come in. It's the next pick that's a little bit more up in the air.
Well, they're spending a lot of time on it, so we'll see. Swapping it over to the Caitlyn, and it wouldn't be a bad pickup, because then you suddenly put Rox Tigers in the spot where, yeah, they can take the Lucian, but it doesn't match well into Caitlyn. They can attack the Ashe, but again, you know, they don't have the siege that they would have had before. And
also it starts to force Rox to reveal things, because now you're saying, hey, what's your jungle going to be? Because we got some cool stuff over here. And so you suddenly, do you want to show your jungler? Do you want to show the fact that Trundle is going to be a support or a top laner? They're fishing for as much information as possible before they commit to their image, which is good pick ban trends from MVP.
Lucian, Azir. So 2 strong pickups for Rox Tigers. Cry, of course, can play that Azir fairly well, we do know.
Caitlyn was a champion that was banned by Katie Rolster against MVP. MaHa showed good skill on that pick, and that was the game, of course, that they came so desperately close to winning in that second game against MVP. So Caitlyn has already been locked in. Opting into Lucian versus Caitlyn is a risk, but, you know, Prey has a lot of experience in the champion. He can make it work. Ian played almost exclusively Ahri in that promotion series, and the matchup against Azir is competitive. It's a bit of a skill matchup in the mid lane, and will they leave their jungle pick for last? They will.
Okay, Viktor, Alistar are the 2 choices for MVP now.
Now they're saying, all right, what jungle are you playing?
Well, they're going to find out. Might be Graves. Might be Graves.
And we've seen series, you know, many series recently where support has become that last pick champion. Last pick Nami was the story in the MSI final. Fun how this has evolved into last pick jungle. The new way of playing. Peanut's a good Graves player, but again, I've kind of said my piece on Graves. I'm not super convinced with it in the current meta. Peanut will lock in Graves. Not a jungler that applies the most pressure on invades, but didn't manage to make it work with the Rek'Sai last game. Question is, what do MVP do? Do they try to make Lightning strike twice with the Amumu?
Hard to say. Rek'Sai seems like the logical choice here, unless they do decide to go for the Amumu. But I feel like it's harder to do this time, because you've either got fairly tanky heroes that you'd be locking down, or heroes that are probably going to be able to dodge out of the way. So I don't think the Amumu is going to work here.
I actually really like the Rek'Sai with this comp because you consider what they have. Very, very strong wave clear with Caitlyn, Viktor, and the Ekko. If you repeat the previous game, Caitlyn gets an early turret down, for example. Rek'Sai allows you to cheat through the enemy jungle like no other jungler can, because Rek'Sai Caitlyn can just walk through an enemy jungle. Tremor Sense will give you the information, and if you get to a turret first as Caitlyn, a couple of auto attacks later, you've got more structures down. So you can play super aggressively with what the Tremor Sense provides, and it's a nice, balanced team comp. It's not the shenanigans of Game 2, but there's a lot to like about MVP's draft.
Yeah, so MVP going for that Rek'Sai in the end for the jungle for Beyond. And we'll see what the Rox Tigers have here. I feel like the Rox Tigers, more than anything this game, have just like a very basic, solid team composition, don't they?
It's just not very Rox Tigers-esque, is it? The Azir in the mid lane isn't really one of their picks. Obviously the Smeb on the Maokai is, but again, you really want Peanut to be playing the Nidalee Kindred that, of course, have been targeted. Nidalee Kindred, Elise is 3 jungle bans at Peanut, and it has removed most of his tools to be that battle ward, to be super aggressive, and now he's kind of resigned to farming up. Now you can level 2 gank as the Grave, so maybe that's where Peanut will go as battle ward-esque as possible, but otherwise, not as Rox Tigers-esque a comp as you might expect in a Game 3.
Yeah, now we did see the Rox Tigers kind of reinvent themselves a little bit around Peanut when he joined the team last year. And who's to say they won't do something similar with Cry?
I mean, losing matchup top lane in terms of pressure, losing matchup definitely in the 2v2 in terms of pressure. I think Rox really needs to get into a 2v1, avoid what could be a really painful laning phase, because we see MVP get a massive pressure advantage early, rotate that Caitlyn around. Could be a big gold lead for MVP if they play all their cards correctly.
Sure enough, we'll see how they do in the lane swap. Time to get into the game. Rox Tigers versus MVP, Game 3. Who takes this best of 3? Let's find out. Bang! I love how they have the exclamation point at the end. It's like he's ready to run for American political office or something. Ocean Drake will be the first Drake of the game in Game 3 between the Rox Tigers.
One of the few topics that we don't talk about in the Phil, Doa, American politics.
We could.
Let's not.
I don't know.
Please, please.
It's a lot to talk about.
There is certainly
some of those guys, dude.
I don't know if the early game is light enough to touch on some of those topics.
You wouldn't be able to hold the conversation anyway.
I'm willing to be
You're
a sounding
not from
board,
the right
Doa.
country.
Really, I'm not? What's wrong with my country?
Well, they don't have American politics. It's not something wrong. It's just something they lack.
I would actually take that as a on balance, a positive, Doa.
You sure? Okay.
Especially recently.
Okay. Drop bear for president. 2000, whenever your election is.
I think we have I'm not that familiar with our parliamentary system, but it's more regular than most countries, so it's probably soon.
Whatever the Queen decides, right?
Bow before her.
Well, Cry gets a little bit of time in the mid lane here. Gets a couple minions before Ian shows up. Not that it's going to make a huge amount of difference, but it looks like we are going to have that lane swap. Smeb Pyong, so it's like Smeb older brother, and then I didn't get to read the rest. I can't read Korean fast enough.
So why don't we just assume it said Smeb Senpai? Or equivalent.
Maybe just Smeb, please do better this game.
Well, I mean, especially if that was after the second game last week, I think it would be pretty much vindicated. So you mentioned it, lane swap on, which is happy days for Rox Tigers. Standard lanes, given the pressure advantage in every lane other than mid, would have meant hard time for Peanut to get through the farming phase he is going to be under in this Graves.
Yeah, we did see ADD rush up to try to get a little bit of CS anyway before Prey and Gorilla forced him out of lane.
Speaking to analysts, a lot of them theorize that lane swaps become more of a thing of the past with the introduction of the elemental drakes, just because First Dragon before, it was more about late game insurance, right? It was 8% stats or 6% stats as it evolved, but that wasn't really relevant in the early game. Now the first elemental dragon can be a mountain dragon, which is always going to be an important one. So it feels like lane swaps, i.e. swapping your bot lane to top side and giving up potentially a 4 or 5 minute dragon is more trouble than it's worth. But given the draft and the fact that we said Rox Tigers needed it, it's just a disadvantage they had to opt into and hope there wasn't going to be a Mountain or Infernal Drake to punish them.
It really does change the early game now, doesn't it? If there's an Ocean or Cloud Drake spawning, or conversely if there's an Infernal Drake or Mountain Drake spawning, two of those dragons obviously have a much higher priority.
But it's really RNG though. It's really randomness because Rox look at the draft and like, we have to lane swap. We're going to be screwed if we don't. And then it's like, please not Infernal or Mountain, you know? Like they can't not lane swap if that happens. They still need to force the lane swap. It's just, what will the punishment be? And in this case, they're going to be happy that it's, again, one of the two lesser, I guess I say in inverted commas, Drakes.
Well, Peanut may try for a steal here. Standing right next to a ward, and actually MVP forced back. Rox Tigers coming in. Are they going to be able to grab that? Peanut comes up for a bit of damage. It's a smite off. Who gets it? It's going to go over to the Rox Tigers, actually. But now the Headbutt Pulverize comes in. Peanut getting exhausted, gets back to the brush, but First Blood does go in for MVP, and ADD manages to make it out. So they got the Ocean Drake, but they gave First Blood over to the top laner on the other side. I don't know if that was worth it.
But it's a big heist, though. Remember, they lane swapped and still managed to get the dragon. You should never be able to get both advantages. So, dragon for a kill, you're going to be certainly happy for that.
Even with that First Blood gold going over to ADD.
It's just such a heist. You can tell they did everything to commit to picking this up. So
I suppose.
I'm going to be on the side of yes. It's worth knowing that Smeb didn't have to be there, got free time, picked up some CS, got a favorable back timing as well. So I think all in all, heist was enacted and successful for Rox Tigers.
All right. Well, good job for Peanut, able to smite better.
He's young. He's got the smite reflexes of youth.
That's right. Rek'Sai able to get a decent amount of CS here as Ian goes back.
Playing FPSs recently, I find that I'm aware of the fact that I'm aging. I just don't hit those Twitch headshots anymore, Doa.
I'm not. I still do. Easy peasy.
We can't all be ex-Halo pro gamers like you.
Well, I'm not, but I did play a lot of Halo. Definitely not a pro gamer.
Close enough, Doa. Close enough.
But I could have been.
The great regret.
Rox Tigers able to actually bully MaHa and max out for the moment anyway.
The Trundle flex down to the support role. Support Trundle. I think it's going to become a thing. In fact, now on with the ability to look back on a week of Champions play, it's really surprising we've seen so little Trundle. We talked about the fact there was the 100% pick ban champions, as Cry considers fishing for an Emperor's Divide but doesn't find one. But Trundle wasn't one of them. You know, champions like Nidalee, Ryze, Kindred, they've all been 100% contested. But with QSS changed, Trundle, I feel, should be up there because support Trundle's still a thing, and top lane Trundle, especially if you can play like Smeb did earlier this series, is also a big consideration.
Yeah. True enough. Yeah, it's too bad for Cry that he wasn't able to get a little bit closer. He could have maybe forced that duel before Ian hit level 6, just hit it right now. But he couldn't quite get enough distance.
I like the idea, though, because Ian's gone once again 2 mobility summoner spells on Viktor, a much shorter range champion than the Varus. There should be times that you can fish for the Emperor's Divide, and if you Emperor's Divide, the Ghost isn't going to be doing too much in that particular engage.
Well, especially if you've got the exhaust, too, like Cry does.
Risky to take Ghost on Viktor this game. It's such a different champion to Varus that there is going to be windows of punishment available for Cry.
Yeah.
But conversely, you just pop that Ghost early and get out of range, theoretically, if you have good vision. So early game will really impact how often you'll be able to just pop that Ghost and get out of danger.
Sure enough. ADD getting a nice little bit of CS up at top, but Smeb keeping up for the moment.
Peanut's been able to just farm to his heart's content, and only a single kill's been passed over when he traded his life for that dragon. So basically been things going to plan for Rox Tigers. Will actually be the Lucian build du jour, specifically the Yomu's Ghostblade into Black Cleaver that we didn't see from MaHa when he played Lucian earlier in the series. I think passing it up is just insane given how many different ways Lucian especially scales. with armor penetration and the movement speed that you get from the Black Cleaver. So
yeah,
not surprised at all to see it in this game, and has the Graves from the jungle to also get more value out of the armor penetration stat.
There's not a ton of champions where you're just like, this is the way to build this champion now, and if you don't, it's probably not as good, but Lucian seems to definitely have that right now.
And it echoes what I was talking about, the lane swaps not being as prioritized because of the dragon being strong. A 2-item AD carry, especially the power of the 2 items of Youmuu's Ghost Blade, which builds well, allows you to trade better in lane, into the Black Cleaver. 2-item power spikes are all about the mid game, and given that you always want to be fighting for dragons, you show up with those 2 items. The enemy AD carry can have whatever items they like, unless they're massively ahead in gold, and there's no way for them to have a similar impact. It's why Lucian is seen as this super powerful meta pick at the moment. So I just don't think you can pass it up. It's like passing up Haunting Guy's Sorcerer's Shoes for Rumble a couple of years ago. You just don't do it, given how clean the item build is.
Right. ADD push out of lane in the bot by Prey and Gorilla. They're going to go in on this one, actually. ADD taking a lot of damage. That's some pressure. Here comes Beyond, though. Ian there as well. Gorilla and Prey may have pushed a little bit too far up.
Ghosted.
Nice pillar from Gorilla, slowing down. This Viktor parallel convergence does not land. So they do make it out. That was a close call, though.
Yeah, the slow and the terrain was enough to counteract the Ghost. So Ghost doesn't actually enact anything. Now it's down to a 3-minute cooldown, so hardly the biggest investment. They don't draw a summoner outside of Gorilla's exhaust on the side of Rox.
Ghost did get a lot better, of course.
Well, it's like literally at every point in the game, more movement speed, because it's 28% at level 1, scaling up to 45% at level 18, and it's a 30-second shorter cooldown. It's a no-brainer. It's very, very powerful. It's just, when can you get away with Ghost is kind of the question you have to ask yourself. In a world where you're not worried about dying in lane, you kind of always take it, because having, you know, that massive burst of movement speed in the late game allows you to get kills or get away from deaths that you in no other situation would be able to. But if you die in lane and don't have the exhaust or heal or cleanse to get you through it, you only have yourself to blame.
Yep, true enough. And Ocean Drake is up down in the Drake pit. So that's the second one in a row.
Are we going to see the triple Ocean in a row?
Maybe.
All the sustain you could ever ask for out of combat.
And it looks like the Rox Tigers may be able to claim this one. MVP, they might want to fight it. They're getting in position, but it's such a good pillar from Gorilla. I don't know if
Smite
they can
War?
do it. He's going to try
Wow.
for it. Oh, he takes it away. Wow. All right, well, I guess fair is fair, right? You know, Peanut got the first one, and the Smite off Beyond manages to steal away the second one.
That's just poor from Peanut. He smited and it was down to 42 HP. He didn't even have to consider things like the buckshot or auto attack from Graves execute damage. That was just literally, he stood there, miss-smited, and Beyond happily rolled in. Didn't even have to give up his life, only his flash this time, and answers. So Oceans for everyone.
Worked out well. Smeb migrating his way back up the top lane. And, you know, wow, a third Ocean Drake in a row. Okay, well, we're going full Ocean Drake, these guys. This game, I guess.
Sounds like a worrying place to go. Never go full Ocean.
Full Ocean Drake.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you don't get to make that decision. The game does it for you.
In fact, all the time now.
Yep.
Literally up to the whims of Rito.
Right.
Now we have a different type of script problem.
I guess so. Well, for now, looks like a bit of a break in the action. Turrets are even for both sides. Beyond thinking about trying something here as Smeb actually goes in onto ADD. Beyond is right there.
Well, Jungler's coming.
Close behind. Yeah, it's going to be a 2v2. Smeb taking a lot of damage, though, before Peanut gets there. ADD low. Smeb has the ultimate, though.
Good to back away from MVP. They probably
Here comes
would.
Ian. There's a flash.
Oh.
Chaos Storm does not connect.
Another fishing mission with the Ghost. Gets some summoners. So again, the summoner trade is good. 3-minute cooldown for 5-minute cooldown between those two summoners.
Yeah, that's right.
Not punished for leaving lane. Viktor, of course, can death ray and leave at his heart's content, such as the kit the champion has.
Smeb's going to TP right back up. Peanut is still there, and it's a 2v1 as ADD uses his ultimate right away to back off. Here comes Rek'Sai, though, with that ultimate. Going to tunnel away immediately. So, and in the end, all they really get out of that is the ultimate from ADD. Smeb did use Flash, too.
Yeah, use both summoners. ADD will have his teleport up. Didn't have to flash away, so summoner trade that time good for MVP. Is a bit of that slower early game, so we have to talk about the value of summoner trades and the value of pressure over actual kills.
Sure.
Only one on the board. Been all about taking down Ocean Drakes in the sum of our first 13 minutes.
It's a dangerous Drake, but the Ocean Drake, I'm sure, feels pretty isolated because he's not really around an ocean at all. It's not really even around a river.
It's pretty popular, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
Everyone's calling for him. At least someone behind the scenes is calling for him.
The summoners. Yeah, what's the lore explanation for the random elemental drakes now?
I'd like to think there's an elemental drake overlord. I guess maybe the Elder Drake is the one that makes that decision.
I think there's the last summoner left. The last one that didn't get taken out in the great Rito lore purge of 2015 is just sitting underneath the dragon pit, rolling the dice, a 4-sided dice, because he loves his Dungeons and Dragons, especially his dragons, especially his random dragons. And whatever it comes up as, it makes it spawn.
See, I prefer to think that the Elder Drake, that they're all children of the Elder Drake, and the Elder Drake decides which child he likes the least that day and just sends him out to die. It's like, Ocean, it's your time. Sorry.
This time it's the triplets.
Yep. The triplets.
Goodbye,
Sent
triplets.
out to be lambs to the slaughter. I guess dragons to the slaughter.
Yes. Whoa!
Whoa!
Wow, Shrima Shuffle works out, and
That was sick.
that's a gank, yeah. Man, Viktor went for a ride.
That sort of clip that Kuro on the bench will be watching going, why can't I ever do that?
Yeah.
That was sick. We're going to see an instant replay of it. This is the power of a good Azir player. And
Yeah.
again, doesn't have any combat summoners. Ghost is going to be of no value. The flash is too late, and Cry managed to get deep enough that he was able to scoop the Viktor out anyway, so very nicely played from Cry.
Flies the not-so-friendly skies, rather. And then he fries.
Good to see a solo play like that from Cry. That's the first time we've seen it. You know, we've seen some fast moves and ability to dodge skill shots, but that's the first aggressive move where you're like, all right, Cry. That was cool to see.
He's good. He is good. And he brings a level of aggression to the mid lane that that we've seen so far anyway that Crow never really had. He was never an aggressive mid laner. He was very good at not dying and very good at finishing people off. So he had that high KDA, but he wasn't really a big playmaker most of the time.
And that's why, see, where I kind of stand on that is that when Rox Tigers are playing a team that they feel they severely outclass, Kuro could have games where he playmakes, but when they face elimination opponents, specifically SK Telecom, you do see uber passivity and in general disappointing performance level from Kuro.
Yeah. Especially against Faker, man. He could never handle Faker.
Was a bit of a punching bag for Faker his whole career, you'd have to say.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Even pre-Rox Tigers.
Yeah. There goes the Earth Ward. And Rox Tigers coming back around to gain a little bit more vision. That second Ocean Drake actually is pretty handy. A lot of sustain. Wow, MaHa has to flash to avoid the culling, so there's a summoner out of the way right before the dragon comes up, so that could be a pretty big deal.
It was actually a good flash. You look at the itemization. Yomu's Ghostblade, instant early power. Another Caulfield's Hammer. The difference in efficiency between the AD items just means that you have to respect the burst from Lucian.
True.
So will this be a second Ocean Drake to Rox Tigers? They're going to start it up again.
Maybe. Could have been a third. But it will be the second if they're able to take it.
This time, maybe don't let Beyond just walk up and steal it.
Yeah, they're definitely poking him away there. Ian comes down for Death Ray. Looks like it will be the second Ocean Drake. Turret comes down, or Pillar rather, comes down, slows down Beyond, sends him to the Great Beyond. So a dragon and a nice pick for the Rox Tigers.
But the Rox Tigers played that smartly, though. That's the thing, is that they didn't let the same scenario rear its ugly head. They had a flank ward available to punish Beyond for even fishing. This time he didn't even get in tunnel range to try and steal, and yet they still had Maokai come in on the backside, cancel teleport from ADD, so a bonus on top of the objective for Rox Tigers.
Yeah, Mountain Drake coming up next, as we saw from the icon in the Dragon Pit. Looks like Rox Tigers are going to be able to claim their second turret of the game. And so that really was a really great sequence of events for the Tigers there. Dragon into a kill, into the bottom lane tier 1. And they've got a decent little lead here at about 17.5 minutes.
Have the Trundle late game as well to shred ADD, who has already the Iceborne Gauntlet finish, so plenty of stats to steal from him. And you can see what item build Beyond goes, knowing there's a Trundle on the enemy side. We might see more of a focus on health through items as we've seen. You can tell Beyond's not the same as his opposite number, Peanut, because there's no Ravenous Hydra, there's a set zone on the Rek'Sai.
Yep. Oh, Smeb pops his ultimate right away. Max is there.
They do not have the damage for this.
Need a 2v1. They get the flash anyway, though.
Respect flash. Maybe didn't know what else was coming. Here we go.
Oh, speaking of flashes, another play onto Ian. Drops that Chaos Storm, but it's not enough. Or is it? Cry, nice block on the ace in the hole by Gorilla. Saves Cry's life. Another great play from the Rox Tigers. They're looking a little bit tighter this game, aren't they?
Although he had a quadra kill in a win, it wasn't about Cry in that game. This game's actually been about Cry. He's making aggressive moves that aren't Rox Tigers' act. This isn't a play style they traditionally have, seeing the solo moves in mid. Usually it's about Peanut creating both terror in the enemy jungle and pressure in the lanes. But Cry's doing it on his own. That's cool to see.
Yeah, doing a great job for sure. They're going to go after that mid lane turret. Don't worry about what's going on in the top lane. Nobody's going to die.
A bit of roughhousing, but no
That's
more.
right. Kind of just fun, you know.
Top laners fighting are like, you know, brothers kind of just fighting for supremacy.
That's right.
They love each other on some level, but a couple of bruises, roughhousing at home.
Where's the get-along shirt?
There.
And so, Rox Tigers slowly but surely, seemingly, pulling farther ahead in this game.
VP seem to thrive on the unknown. You know, playing these crazy comps seems to fit them better than more of the standard, but still early in the game. Still nothing's been decided. Although 3 dragons have gone down, they haven't, again, been dragons that, while relevant, aren't necessarily game-tipping like Mountain and Infernal.
Nope. Nope. Pillar.
Doesn't interrupt the tunnel.
Not really. He went underneath it. Nobody wants a Rift Herald, though. And the Rift Herald's... he's like, fine. Fine then. Goodbye.
2 games in a row. We've seen plenty of glimpses of the Void, as Beyond going aggressive here.
Yeah. Trying to, anyway.
Only
Blue buff. Oh, Peanut. Peanut, you took the blue buff. You're fired.
He had red, so that was probably a red burn issue.
Maybe.
Cry's doing some role-playing now.
Or living up to his name.
Yep.
One of the two.
Either or.
If he's role-playing, it means more like he's acting like a giant space bird.
That's fair. You got me there, Doa. You win this one.
Space bird.
What does a space bird act like?
Well, like
establishes
Azir,
walls, I guess.
Yeah. Has some soldiers that are fighting for him. Rox Tigers pushing up, taking this mid lane tier 1. Here comes Max on the side, though. The engage onto Gorilla. Not too effective. They're going to turn it around. A lot of damage onto Max as Maokai joins the fray. Smeb all over that back line of MVP. They're going to get the kill onto Beyond. Max still very low. Prey on the side of the fight. That's a dangerous place to be as he's going to take an ace in the hole. Flashes away. ADD trying to come in. Has to ult away, though. Can't quite get the kill in the end. That was a risky move for Prey, but I guess you could say it worked out.
It's not a fight you want to take if you're MVP. The 2 items we spoke about are complete. Youmuu's Ghostblade, Black Cleaver. You have to heavily respect what this Lucian can do, and Lucian was under no threat in the backline. Okay, it's only a single kill. It's not a team fight route, but why are you going in as Max looking for a flank play when the AD itemization, the trough Caitlyn is in, is literally only matched by how much of a peak in power the Lucian is in?
Well, he also engaged onto Gorilla and Peanut, too. So, I mean, not high-value targets, not somebody your team's going to be able to really burst down right away, probably. And that just left Cry and Prey back there to do as much damage as they wanted.
So, misfire by the Alistar, both in terms of conceptualization and what he actually put together. Puts a bit more advantages in the pocket of Rox Tigers. There were a couple of 1,000 goals ahead before. Now we're very close to the 5,000 goal mark.
Now, Mountain Drake coming up in about 35 seconds now. That's a big one for both of these teams. It's just a good dragon in general as you move into the time where sneaking a Baron becomes an option.
I mean, Azir and the tank has always been famous for sneaking a Baron, and that only becomes faster when something like a Mountain Drake is accounted for.
Yep, definitely.
Very early in the game for there to be 4 dragons taken, but that's what happens in lane swaps. You see these early dragons started. Credit to Peanut, stole the first one to stop there being multiple on the side of MVP.
You can see Rox Tigers seem to really want this one. Everybody focused on that bottom part of the map. They've got some wards in. They may have to give up their top lane tier 1 to do this, but I'd say that's a pretty good trade for Mountain Drake.
Mountain Drake's definitely the pretty girl at the party. Everyone wants to get involved and meet her.
That's what I think of when I look at the Mountain Drake. The pretty girl at the party. Yeah.
Come on, she's elegant in her own way.
Well, Mountain Drake does go over to Rox Tigers. That's a big one.
But we will not be getting another mountain next time. It will be the Cloud, I believe, is the next one.
Sure, I didn't catch a glimpse of it, but I believe you.
It wasn't a fire, that's for sure.
Okay. So we know there never will be one in this game.
That's right, the fire burns. Actually, not at all.
No, it's out. The cloud, the wind has blown it out, I suppose.
Yep. The fire in my heart also gone. There's no move with this game.
See, like, I feel like Wind Drake would have been a better name than Cloud Drake. It's more about the speed of the wind, right? Than the speed of the clouds.
I cannot disagree. I do not have a strong opinion, but I follow your logic.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, in the Korean version, they actually do call it Wind Drake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Korea has it right, then. They've been right a few times in the history of League of Legends, so...
Yeah, once or twice. A little bit of damage onto that tier 2 down in bot lane as Rox Tigers try to siege. Getting down to about half health. You know, taking some turret shots, so you're going to have to back up. And it is tough to kind of maneuver around all of those Caitlyn traps, too.
With their shortish range, even though they have the Mountain Drake and would love to wail away on turrets, the brute force approach is difficult and taxing to their health bars.
Yep. Cry is here, going to try to help claim that red buff. Does go over to Smeb in the end.
With the extra cavalry, we see Peanut pushing up as well. If they can get 3 lanes pushing and actually get free auto attacks from either the Graves or the Lucian, depending on which lane it is, they will burn down these turrets. Oh, going in!
Nice culling on the MaHa. Didn't have to use his flash, though. Really close call. Now Rox Tigers putting pressure on multiple lanes right now, and this isn't even with the Baron buff. This is the power of that Mountain Drake already put to use, as they don't need a whole lot of time with the turrets to do some major damage.
This is against a team with such considerable wave clear. It's just that Viktor, once again, no combat summoners, have to hang back. They're splitting, they're pushing up multiple lanes and ensuring there are multiple people getting turret shots in.
There it goes. That bottom lane tier 2 down, Chaos Storm dropped onto Cry. They're going to get that turret anyway. So 2 turrets taken in quick succession, and now a pretty large gold lead forming for the Rox Tigers.
You're right, and that gold has been spent on items that have that big effect early in the game, as we said time and time again, specifically about Prey's build, but everyone here is really hitting their power spikes early, and Caitlyn is still waiting for a second item, so the trough is just continuing to be amplified, and we're still 15 minutes away from Caitlyn really taking an ascendancy in team fights over the Lucian.
Yeah, what do you think about the decision for MaHa this game to not go with the Hurricane first? He's got it now, but he only just picked it up a moment ago.
If it was a double TP team, I think it would be pretty egregious because you want to park the Caitlyn in mid lane to wave clear. It's just when you got Ghost Flash Viktor, you can't really put him in a side lane. So I can kind of understand the Infinity Edge first. I just don't think it's ever valid because you get so little value out of the expensive recipe and the crit cloak.
I suppose.
You just don't get the gold value you once did. Infinity Edge was for so long the oppressive first item that really moved away Alistar.
Oh, MaHa barely sneaks his way out of that engage from Cry. Got the flash, though. Meanwhile, Smeb mixing it up, 1v3. Here comes Gorilla, Prey, Peanut, the whole team. They really want these wolves. I guess they want AD as well, probably. ADD, rather. Gets exhausted, the culling comes through, blocked by Beyond, engaged from Max to try to save his AD carry, or rather his top laner. He doesn't do it. 2 kills come in for Prey on that Lucian, and now they're going to move in on this inhibitor. And they may be able to just end here, actually, with 3 people down, only the jungler and Ian remaining. I think they can probably just finish this one off.
They only have 4 minions. Smeb's going to go back and teleport in onto a minion if one lives. No minion lives, though, so the successful defense might actually come through from MVP.
Okay. Yep, it was close. If they would have had a bigger wave, maybe they could have done it. But Ian is doing some serious damage on that Viktor, so they will have to back off. They might be able to go and grab the Baron. In fact, they Most likely can.
It was actually really smart from Smeb. He saw that the minion wave was small, so he wanted to teleport to keep one alive.
Yeah.
Of course, Viktor, famous for clearing out minion waves, so not able to do that, but that means Rox might just turn onto the Baron.
Yeah, and here's another occasion where that Mountain Drake comes in handy. Back over the wall they go, on to Beyond. Pillar slows him down a bit. They're able to do enough damage to force him away, make sure that Smite does not go in their favor. Tries with the Prey Seeker, but the Baron still goes over to the Rox Tigers. Nice Pillar, trapping Max, forcing the flash from Ian. That's going to be a kill for Prey. Going in on to Beyond, who hits him with the Unburrow, though. Prey very, very low. Not for long, though. There's a kill. They lose the Baron buff onto him. ADD trying to make something happen, but in the end, it's a double kill for Peanut. And the minions taking down the Nexus turret. Teleport coming in, actually. Smeb wants to take this, and they may try to close it. Ian, the only one left. I think this now is going to be the end.
And the death time is far too long. Peanut does a great impersonation of a true AD carry on the jungle Graves, and Rox Tigers, with a big hiccup in the second game, still take out the expected win over MVP.
Yep, that's right. And you got to give a lot of credit to MVP. They've played 2 matches now. They've played against tough opponents, looked good against MVP, looked better, I would say, against Rox Tigers, even winning a game. But in the end, the Rox Tigers getting their first win of the season, showing that they're still a force to be reckoned with here, even though they do have a couple bugs to work out in the system as far as their new mid laner is concerned.
And MVP, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board again with no points, but with a lot of heart. But if I'm going to compare them to a team, it's Samsung a couple of seasons ago in summer, where they would win game 1 with a great plan, and then something would get banned, and they wouldn't have a second string of play. Now, the new Samsung definitely does have the new strings to the bow. The question is, can MVP win standard? Because it's been when they've really pushed to the edge of the meta that they've looked strongest. So is there going to be a guarantee they're going to pick up a 2-0 or a match win soon? No. But they are a team to expect things from. They're a team that shows excitement, which is honestly a lot to say from 2 games.
You know, it won't take that much improvement, honestly, for this MVP team to be a very decent middle-of-the-pack team here in LCK Summer.
So when you have one champion that can build Black Cleaver, Yomu's Ghostblade, and another AD carry that builds Infinity Edge first, things like this happen, Doa, when you compare the damage dealt by Lucian versus the Caitlyn.
More than doubling the AD carry over on the MVP side. Prey just